All right, good morning, everybody. There's a few people in the audience, so good morning, everybody. Today is Wednesday, February 9th. We're here for board session at 9 a.m. in the Senator Hearing Room at 555 Court Street, Northeast in Salem. And if you would, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You are first, so we're going to get started this morning with a couple presentations. And the first one is from Chris Epley on the Wildfire Recovery Update. Good morning. What? Oh, I'm sorry. And see, let me get through my thing here, man. We don't have any public comment today. So now we're moving on to you.
Thank you, Chair Bethel and Commissioners Willis and Cameron. So we are here for the status report for the wildfire recovery. And just for the record, my name is Chris Epley. I'm the Community Development Division Director for Marion County. And one of my areas of responsibility is the ongoing wildfire recovery. We are on report number 15. So we are 17 months out from the fire, almost a year and a half. So these are, once again, we just include this every time so you can see sort of the percentage of the rebuild to date. And then there's another piece of paper that I handed out that you'll find at your spots, which I've been working on with both Brandon Reich in building and then our planning and zoning, and then also IT to try to get some data for you that's a little different than what you've seen in the past, and we'll go over that in just a second. But it didn't get done in time to include in the presentation, so we're just going to have to talk through it, and I apologize for that. So basically what you can see is that gates were at 35 Marion County permits, 9 Lynn County permits issued. Detroit is at 82. Overall, if you look through these, we're at about 45% of those properties that were destroyed having at least building permits issued on them, which does not necessarily mean that they've been built back yet, but those are the permits that people have taken. And then this is sort of a leading statistic. This is the septic permits. And once again, we're at about 60% or 59% of all septic permits having been issued. Some of those probably won't build back. Some folks may choose, I'm gonna use my property differently than was used before. Some of those properties may choose to rebuild over time or later. Some of those properties may sell between now and when they get rebuilt. On the ODOT side, they're getting very, very close to being done with their work, at least in Marion County. So the property cleanup piece in Marion County on residential properties is completed so far. They're still doing a little bit of work inside Detroit for the city itself, the city properties, but I was up there yesterday and they were removing some trees still in rights of way, but they're very, very close. They're at 90% of all hazard trees that they had targeted to remove having been removed, and ODOT is beginning to close out the activity. So soon you won't get stuck going up the canyon anymore with construction crews. These are the county projects primarily through Public Works and Matt Lawyer in Commissioner Bethel's office working on the housing pieces. So in Gates, the Evans Haven project land use applications have been approved by the City of Gates for the 16 tiny homes, septic system permits to DEQ. Those have been submitted to DEQ, and we're simply waiting on the issuance of the land use compatibility statement by DEQ before that project can start building, but that actually should start occurring very quickly. In North San Diego State Park, contracts for due diligence have been finalized. The siting of 16 tiny home units is underway, and that's a slight change. The last time I reported that those were going to be cabins, more permanent structures. That had to change to less permanent structures due to state regs. So that is a change, but they're still moving forward with 16 units of housing for folks that will be available. And then on the septic replacement, you have a couple of different things occurring. So you have the city, or you have Marion County working on developing a septic replacement program. There will be about $10 million available. It's going to be in two pieces. One is going to be for getting the downtown area put back into place. So there will be probably a community system set up so that businesses can connect to it. And that'll be designed in such a way so that if there is a sewer built in the future, it can simply be hooked into it and we won't waste that money. And then there will be money available for residential septic reconstruction and replacement. There's also a $15 million statewide septic repair and replacement program that DEQ is developing, and those will be competitive grants. The county may or may not be involved in administering some of that. And then I went up and just took some pictures so you can, if you haven't been up there in a while, you can see what's going on. And I'll just start on the top right. That is the new Civic Center that's being built by the Detroit Lake Foundation. In the back is the old gymnasium from the high school that was there, and that's being rebuilt into a community center. The middle piece will be the City Hall area, and then on the far right will be bays for public safety equipment, either fire or sheriff's department, because they do boat patrol up there. We haven't figured any of that out yet, but the intent is for public safety purposes. The strange structure bottom left is actually the temporary water treatment system that was slapped into basically a carport that was not designed for any sort of snow load. And so in order to make sure that it survived through the winter, we built that structure over it, which is basically just a seismic rated and snow rated lean-to roof so that it doesn't collapse if we have a heavy snow season. And then once again, the bottom right is the entranceway into the new Civic Center. And so that's how people will enter either the community center piece or the City Hall piece. Top left is a picture of that gymnasium as it's being rebuilt. They finished the floor, they finished most of the cleanup, and it actually looks better in person than it does on this picture. So that's going to be a really awesome ad for that community. Top right is the inside of those equipment bays, and the bottom right is the inside of what will ultimately be the City Hall council chambers, which is going to be pretty neat. So it's going to be sort of a mountain-esque sort of construction going on there with exposed timber and stuff. It's going to be really nice. It's going to be such an amazing amenity for that community, more than they've ever had before, in order to do the people's business up there. And just to look at some of the housing that's going on, and I have a lot more pictures. I was up there yesterday again. I have a lot more pictures that I'll include next week for other housing, but there's just a lot going on. And top right, there's the Detroit Community Church that's rebuilding, that was lost right in the downtown area. So it's pretty amazing, everything that's going on up there. Moving on to the long-term recovery group, the LTRG and the
Actually, Chris, before you
Yep.
move on, would you mind spending some time up the North Fork and just giving us some ideas of what that looks like in your next presentation as
Sure.
well?
Sure,
Thanks.
I will make the trip.
Thank you.
It's always nice to get out and get
It
up in that
is.
area anyway, so.
Yeah.
The long-term recovery group is also known as the LTRG and the SANIAM Service Integration Team, or the SIT. These are the folks that are actively working with wildfire-affected families on a case-by-case basis, getting them reconnected with services, helping them through the FEMA process, sort of on an individual basis, and their workload has been really heavy. So through 2021, they have served 1,196 households. 29 have been successfully relocated or rebuilt. 226 homeowners and 116 renters are currently in active case management. And they're working on developing a greater presence on all social media platforms. Actually started some podcasts, which are pretty neat. And then at the bottom they're also coordinating other activities for construction of homes. 7, for instance, are being built through the Christian Aid Ministries program, with 10 more slated for this next year. This is just a picture off of their website. They also have a relief fund, the Santiam Canyon Wildfire Relief Fund, that people have been donating to. And to date, they've collected in total donations nearly $4 million. And that money has gone right out to wildfire-affected families for personal assistance. So that's pretty amazing. That's just a snapshot of the generosity of this area. Some other news from the LTRG and the SIT. Santiam Service Integration Team was the first support agency in the state to have their funding extended by the state through June 2023 with $1.8 million worth of additional funding. So that's good. That means they're going to be in place at least through the end of next year, helping folks get relocated. Mid-Willamette Valley Community Action Agency just placed 5, maybe 6 new personnel in sublimity to help support survivors, and these are case managers. So there will be 2 housing navigators, 2 case managers, a team lead, and then a support person. And that's really, really critical because they've actually had a lot of turnover with their case managers. It's hard work and it's emotional work dealing with folks, and you can just, those folks burn out. So this is a big influx of new faces to help get us through this sort of long period of getting folks back up there. Also, over $43,000 in construction materials have been donated to assist in the rebuild process. Things like toilets, doors, cabinets, light fixtures, et cetera. That's being coordinated through the LTRG. And then the Mid-Willamette Valley Habitat for Humanity is rolling out a pilot program called Ramps and Rails to build handicap ramps and rails for survivors' homes who need those amenities. And then the last piece here on the formal report before we get to this little piece of paper is just some of the LTRG and SIT recovery statistics. Excuse me. The one I want to draw your attention to is the one that I have highlighted here, sort of lower midway through. And this is a snapshot of all of the unmet needs currently that they still have. And it includes things like access, clothing, employment, FEMA advocacy, et cetera. Those 2 that I highlighted are just the housing pieces. So, you know, the housing pieces make up a big chunk of the unmet needs still up in the canyon. And of those, I thought an interesting piece was that about 53 of the 85 total housing cases being managed are for reconstruction and permanent relocation, whereas 32 of them are seeking to be relocated.
Can you elaborate on what the reconstruction means?
Those are folks wanting to get back on properties into structures that they lost. So back up in the canyon.
The structure just needs to be reconstructed, like as in rebuilt,
Yep.
or it needs some minor work to get back in?
It could be either of those things.
I like a detailed list of all that.
Okay. I can ask LTRG for that. This is their data, so this is not my data, but I can ask them to break that out.
Okay.
So what that is folk, and it could be a lot of different kinds of stories. It could be people who did not have enough insurance. It could be people going from a stick-built home into a manufactured home. I don't know, so I'll ask them to break that out.
I just know that there's some resources available locally that need to be encouraged, to be utilized to help people who own land that need to get back on their land. And Matt and I are working on an opportunity to make that connection happen, and I just am curious if those 53 those households might be opportunities for us to, connect.
Right.
So, yeah, I would love to know what that is.
The piece that I thought was interesting here really was the housing need is their biggest individual need, and of those, about a third of those are people wanting to relocate out of the area. So that's just a data point that I thought was interesting to pull out of that. It's actually lower than I anticipated. So I thought you'd have a lot more people relocating out of the area just because it would be very difficult to get back. But most of those folks want to come back.
Yeah,
So
but I
that's
think
good.
of that 32, what it potentially doesn't capture are the people that had to relocate because they didn't find a landing point immediately post-fire.
Correct.
And I know that there are many households that are across the country that have not potentially engaged in this process that may or may not want to come back. So I think, although it does look low, I think it's actually a lot higher than that.
Okay. And time will tell, and we'll keep tracking that. So the piece of paper that I handed you, this is a data point data set that I wanted to include, but it just didn't get completed in time. But I wanted to talk you through it, give you a snapshot of it for the next report. And it's got two pieces, but let's look at the graph and charts on the front as the first piece. And really what this is tracking is the number of final permits. Okay, so you can see, if we just look at Detroit, for instance, they have 82 permits, building permits issued, 10 of those are completed. Okay, so the other building permits that have been issued are either in construction or haven't begun yet. But this is a hard number of those that began construction, actually completed, and those homes are rebuilt. The more interesting piece of information is what the valuations look like. And let's just stick with the Detroit. Once again, this is just a teaser for you. If you look at the top bar chart, you'll notice that the value of those 10 homes that were rebuilt prior to the fires was $383,000 of assessed valuation on the tax rolls. The the new assessed valuation of those same 10 is at $1.3 million. So that will give you a snapshot of what's likely to happen in terms of assessed valuations as the rebuild continues to happen up in the canyon. So those communities are building out at a much higher assessed valuation than was there prior, which will help those communities with resources and their ability to function as independent communities going into the future. And what's hidden in that, and I don't really know, is how many of those folks are the vacation home, the second homeowners versus those that are permanently living up there. I suspect the vast majority of those are vacation homes. And what we're seeing is the vacation homes coming back are at a much higher level than what was lost.
Is this map available for Gates and the unincorporated, specifically North Fork Road?
You're jumping ahead.
Oh,
So,
well, good.
Yes.
My lack of patience, sorry.
It is working on it. This map is being built, is in fact, it's actually a piece of information I'm hoping to get from the commission. I would like, and I think Brandon would like, and IT would like, for this to end up being a public-facing map where people could access it and look at what's happening throughout the entire fire-affected area. But what it shows is all of the properties that were lost in the fire, and we're not done with it yet. And so it's still being worked on. So I asked IT to just pull out Detroit to give you a good example, but it will be available for Gates and North Fork and the other areas as well.
And can you create two concepts, one residential, one commercial?
They will all be on here.
But can you separate them out? Because I'm gonna be working on a commercial project up there very soon, and I'd like just commercial specific data. Is that, I assume it's a grid that kind of potentially overlays. I'm not an IT expert, but I'd
Yeah.
like to think that it could separate.
I suspect that they can create another layer that is just commercial versus just residential. Right now, it would all just be on one map. So the commercial would be a different color and you'd be able to identify it. I don't know the answer to that, but I can certainly find out if they can create it to that level of dynamics.
Okay,
So.
thank you.
But anyway, this will just show residential versus mobile home and septic permits. It just kind of gives you a snapshot up through the entire canyon, so you can scroll up to an area that you want to look at, zoom in, and see what's occurring on the properties around. So anyway, it's coming. I'm hoping that it will be closer to done next month.
I think this is great.
So, any questions?
I'm keeping I didn't get one of these, so I'm keeping Commissioner Willis's. We need an extra one for him.
I have several. That would
Great.
be great if you so. I'll bring it up. Thank you all.
Okay, so I'm not done. You can't run off yet.
Oh,
Well, I just want to add 2 points before you go. So Commissioner Cameron participated on Monday night with the legislature for the Wildfire Recovery Committee, and they are inviting wildfire survivors of all the counties impacted to come on Tuesday, February 15th at 5:30 to testify to the legislature. Today, John, our communications officer, will be pushing information out through our social media channels, so I would like the public to look for that and please participate. That's specifically for survivors. And then, just on a happy note, DEQ did approve our permits for the Gates project, so there will be some equipment moving up there and some things moving ahead in the coming coming soon weeks. So I'm very excited about that.
That project is very fast. It is occurring, I mean, I just finished writing this not even a week ago,
Yeah.
and that's new data. So
It is,
it's
yeah.
happening
Well, we only submitted
constantly.
the permit a week ago, and I just want to give a shout out to Jody at Regional Solutions and then Mary at DEQ, because really they were our partner team. DEQ is not a fast-moving organization by any means of the imagination, and they turned that around for us in a week. So
That's amazing.
it is.
Never
Shout
heard,
out to them.
I've never heard that before.
Well,
I've never heard that
Marion
fast.
County gets things done,
Yeah.
and when you have good partners.
Any other questions or comments?
No, thanks, Chris.
Thank you all.
All right, moving on to our next presentation from Brandon Reich of the East Salem Housing presentation. Good morning, Brandon.
Good morning. Excuse me. Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Brandon Reich, Marion County Planning Director. So on Thursday, March 3rd in the evening from 6 to 7, Planning is going to host a meeting to hear from East Salem residents some ideas that they have about housing. So people may have experienced that right now, housing can be very expensive for some people, either to rent or to own a property. One of the options that we have is adding to our zone code additional types of housing. And this would be not just single-family homes and not just apartments, but it's the types of housing that are in the middle, and it's called middle housing.
The missing middle.
Missing middle housing, yes. People may have heard that Salem is required because of recent legislation to go through this process and consider what types of housing is right for their zones. Marion County is not required to because we're outside the city, but we still have an opportunity to look at what kinds of housing opportunities might be right for our area.
Hey, Brandon, can I just ask a clarifying question really quick? Is it only the city of Salem based on that legislation, or is it all cities?
It's Salem, Woodburn, and Kaiser in Marion County,
Is that based on population?
based on population, over 10,000 when the bill passed.
Okay, thanks.
Silverton's kind of right there at that
Brandon, I want to
in
clarify.
the future.
So if a town grows and becomes over 10,000, they don't fall under this. It's only when the bill passed?
I don't know, I can find out. I think that as DLCD, Department of Land Conservation and Development, will review every few years, and then as the populations grow, you'll get added to the list of communities that.
Okay.
And I think the next time they come around is 3 to 4 years.
Okay.
Before they look at that again. So I'm going to show some pictures in a second of middle housing, but before I do, I wanted to just bring up what middle housing is and what it isn't. First, it's familiar. These are types of housing that we see in our communities and in our areas now. This type of housing, it tends to be more affordable for people who work in our community to be able to live in our community. And this kind of housing you'll find our neighbors live in, as well as new people in our area. People retire to this housing, and people also add to their property to be able to rent out this type of housing for additional income. For Marion County, I believe primarily this type of housing is providing options that work for us. Middle housing is not rezoning land. It's not reducing the lot sizes for single-family homes. It's not apartments. That's covered under other zoning. It's not mandating types of housing, and it's not requiring that existing homes be torn down. Here's some pictures of middle housing. So we have in our code already accessory dwelling units, and you can kind of see a progression here where you can add one unit to a property where you've got a primary home and you add an accessory dwelling unit, so it's an additional unit on the property. It tends to be smaller than the primary home, and it gives people options to be able to live on the property. There's options for duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, so there are a few more units on a property. And then there's attached row homes or townhomes. People can own those depending on how it's set up when it's developed, and it can be up to 4 to 6 units on a property. And the example here is local in Salem, and they're 2-story, and they're the type, and depending on how many you have, they're the type that can fit into the scale of the community. And the last type is cottage clusters, and this is very different, but it can be a lot of fun because people can own or rent individual units, and they're surrounded by shared open space, like park setting, gardens, that they can all, so people can kind of have a flexibility between having their own home on their own lot versus sharing the kind of park space, open space, garden space together and having their own unit. Next Thursday, or Thursday, March 3rd, we're going to ask 2 questions. We're going to ask people, we're open to any kind of feedback people have, but we're going to ask people, what have they seen that works in our community, in East Salem, in our area? What have they seen that works? And we're going to ask, what would you like to see? And get that kind of feedback about the kind of options we might have moving forward. We do have a survey coming out. It'll come out around the time of the presentation of the meeting. People can provide comments back about what they've seen, what their concerns are, to planning at co.marion.or.us. They're always welcome to call us. All the planners are involved in this. Soon we'll have some social media releases come out, and press release come out to advertise the event. It'll be both in person and online via Zoom meeting. People can have the options of either, and it'll be in this room. We're set up for everything that we need here to do the presentation. And with that, I'm available for any questions or any feedback you have.
Commissioner?
Well, right now, I just want to say I'm glad that we're getting the input from the community. You know, I think however we move forward, it's got to be good for the neighborhoods that are there in East Salem. So I think this is a good opportunity to hear from the folks living there what they want. And did I say East? I meant New Marion.
I heard you, but I was waiting.
We knew what you meant. So we've got no agenda at this point. We've got no route laid out. We really want to make sure that we can hear from people what their ideas are, but we also want to see if there's opportunities that Salem gets. Well, East Salem can get them too. If they're right for us, we can see which ones would apply.
Yeah, I appreciate that you've said a couple times, if it's right for us.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important for people that live in the county's jurisdiction in East Salem to know that we're not forcing any of this on them, and that they really do need to participate. And I imagine that, I forget your PIC's name.
Yancey Gordon.
Yancey will be pushing this out on social
We
media,
will.
and then John will probably capture that, and then we'll do our best to really push it around. How long will the survey be open?
I think we'd open it for a week.
Just a week?
We could do 2 weeks. There's really no time limit. We could do 2 weeks.
Okay.
So,
I think definitely at least 2 weeks, because it takes a little bit of time for people to,
Oh,
by the time
yeah.
people watch this back on the weekend, which maybe they lay in bed in the morning on Saturday reading coffee, watching board sessions. It's so exciting, they could. They'll learn about this.
so we're going to open it around the time of the meeting. We keep over 3 weeks, and give people plenty of time
Okay.
for any kind of feedback.
Maybe we just watch to see what kind of reception we get in participation, and then keep, providing opportunity if it doesn't get high numbers going initially. Commissioner Cameron?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Brandon, I just want to say thank you for the approach you're taking to this. I know when we did the New Marion Public Safety Service District, the sheriff at that time and I worked for a couple of years through just open dialogue and having, of course, then we could host town halls in schools and those types of things, and got the support of the people to move forward. And I think that's the way we can get to a community. And we all know that if this area was incorporated, it'd be like the 4th largest city in Marion County. And it would probably have a name of New Marion, so.
You've been talking about this since.
I have no desire to incorporate it.
Okay.
I just know that
I'll back you. We could do it.
yeah.
Either way, we could change the street signs for sure.
I think they already have a city councilor and a mayor, so, what more do they need?
Is he pointing at us?
Are you pointing at me?
Yeah.
I would absolutely be the
three-person council.
city councilor, but I don't know about a mayor. I don't know that I'm qualified to be a mayor.
Well, you are to New Marion, Madam Chair.
That's great. Well, thank you, Brandon. I
Thank
look
you.
forward to this opportunity, and I just want the public to know that the commissioners will participate in as much of this as we can, and I know that we're working on some community-based forums in the coming weeks to be out in the community, and I hope that folks engage that to really have authentic conversations with us, because we want to know.
Absolutely.
So,
Thank you.
this is great.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, here's my agenda. I have a lot of paperwork up here today.
Oh, yeah.
Let's move on to the consent calendar, and Commissioner Willis, if you would please read that.
Okay, Madam Chair, I would move that we approve the consent agenda under Budget Committee, approve an order reappointing, I guess it's under Board of Commissioners, excuse me, approve an order reappointing Dave Kinney to the Marion County Budget Committee with a term ending June 30th, 2024. Under Public Works, approve an order delegating the authority of the Planning Director and Zoning Administrator to the Marion County Public Works Director in the event of a conflict of interest. Under Tax Office, approve an order for a property tax refund in the amount of $15,037.14 for Hallman Properties LLC.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, the motion passes, and we'll move on to our first action item with Health Administrator Ryan Matthews for consider approval of the incoming funds one-time funding agreement with Pacific Source Community Solutions in the amount of $500,000 towards the purchase of real property for the His Place program. Good morning, Ryan.
Good morning, Commissioners. Happy to be here. My name's Ryan Matthews. I'm the administrator with the Marion County Health and Human Services Department, and I'm excited to present this action item. So in a recent conversation, I guess it's been a few months now, but in a conversation with our local coordinated care organization, Pacific Source, we were talking about brainstorming solutions that and gaps that exist within Marion County and where they could make some investments to help us get positive outcomes for people in the behavioral health and addictions realm. And one of the first places we went to was the concept of His Place. And so for those that are unaware, we currently operate a residential facility known as Her Place. It is for mothers who are suffering with addiction treatment issues, and they are able to receive their needed services in a supportive environment where they also maintain custody of their children. So that's really kind of the foundational principle there, is that what oftentimes happens to people on their journey to recovery is there can be a separation from their kids as they have to really take time to focus on themselves and overcome the challenges they're facing. And the kids end up in a child welfare system, which is certainly a traumatic experience for the family to be separated like that, but also, I think long-term, has some detrimental outcomes to it. So what Her Place is able to offer is a safe space where mothers can come and live and maintain custody of their children, because their children will be on site. We have daycare there available, so when they need to receive treatment, that we can provide that to them. But what hasn't existed in our community is something that mirrors this for fathers who have kids who need to go through kind of a similar journey. And this gap, which now we're looking to resolve with His Place, is something that historically we've been unable to fund, despite the success of Her Place, which has been a tremendous success for decades at this point. We never really had the capital funds to invest in a His Place, and in conversations with Pacific Source, their generosity and willingness to put toward $500,000 towards this project, I think really kickstarted our ability to make this happen. So I'm here requesting that we approve the incoming funds of $500,000, which will be put towards a purchase of a home to operate a His Place program. And we have identified a residence, we've made a contingent offer on it, and we are currently working through some logistics related to zoning and well water and some other things. But I'm hoping in the short term we'll be able to come back with a contract for the purchase of a home that we can present to you for consideration. And I think that, I know our team is really passionate about this service that we're excited to be able to offer. And, we've had staff that have come and actually presented at board session who experienced Her Place from the other side. And we've seen sort of the journey that they went on to then turn around and come back and pay it forward as employees now working within Her Place. I think that speaks to sort of the culture and the environment of that program and how supportive it is, and really the positive outcomes that they're able to work toward. So it's exciting that this opportunity has been made available to us, and I don't know if there's any specific questions that any of you may have, but I'd be happy to try to answer those.
I don't have any questions. Do you have any questions, Commissioner?
No, Ryan, just thank you for this. I know we've talked about it for the last few months, and it's great to see this coming out of the ground and going on. Yeah.
So win for our community.
It really is. I think it's great, and Pacific Source is new to our community, so I think it has taken them some time to sort of understand maybe, where they can make some strategic investments that can really provide our community with the support that we need and want. And I think it's also important to know that, this is part of what makes Marion County really, really effective, I think, is its creative solutions, its innovative ideas and programs, and this is not just in the healthcare field, it's kind of across all of our departments. We don't see ourselves as a community that is like a cookie cutter approach, that it works here, so let's just recreate that in our community. I mean, we really try to understand the needs and wants and desires of the people that live here and build our programs to help support them. And I think the fact that we have such a unique program in her place and we're starting one up with his place really speaks to that we're willing to think outside the box and do what is best for our community and not necessarily just look outward and assume that other people have the right answer that we need to recreate.
Commissioner Bethel, any?
No, I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
Parenting calls. I'm in the middle of board session. All right, so all is well with my daughter. I don't have any questions. I just want to say again how grateful and excited I am for this project. But mostly, Ryan, I'm just really grateful to you for how fast you made this happen. I've only been a commissioner for just over a year, and we had a conversation in the summer maybe, and here we are in just early February, and between yourself and Colleen, I'm really proud of how well the Marion County works to take care of its people, and this is just a testament to that. And I think that kids being with their parents is the most important thing in life, and parenting's hard. Life is hard. And so when people need some support, I think it's our responsibility to come around them. And this is a really unique, rare opportunity for us to do that in a way that really keeps families whole. So I'm looking forward to his place opening and being a part of the lives of those men and those children, and just watching the cycle break and people excel. So this is a bit emotional. I think it's just really...
No, it's really exciting.
It's just really a big deal.
Yeah, it is.
And again, Marion County, just to brag,
Yep.
best in the state. Look what we're doing for our folks, people. Like, I'm going to be a cheerleader someday, just for Marion County.
That's right. Well, and as you said earlier, Marion County gets things done too. So that really speaks to that. When we come up with ideas, we want to actually execute them and make them happen. So it's not just about talking about the ideas.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. I need a
Oh, I
motion.
guess it's my,
I was like, wait a second. I know I was off track for a second, but
it would be mine.
yes.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the incoming funds of one-time funding agreement with Pacific Source Community Solutions in the amount of $500,000 towards the purchase of real property for His Place program.
I second the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes. And Ryan's still here.
I'm still here.
To consider approval of the incoming funds intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Health Authority in the amount of $11,958,268.98 for the financing of community mental health services retroactive to January 1, 2022 through December 31, 2022. Right?
Yes. Yes.
I mean, wait, thanks,
It
sorry.
is for a calendar year. It's,
Yeah,
yes, correct.
it just took me a second. All right.
Yeah, yes, so I am here seeking approval, and what's interesting about these is this is for a calendar year. That's a somewhat recent change. It used to be these were always biennium contracts, and they also used to span the fiscal year. So it's been a bit of a transition to have them shift to like an annual process and over the calendar year. It's a bit more of an administrative burden, especially for like legal reviews and things to do this on an annual basis. So, but I think that it makes it easier for the state probably in terms of how they appoint, or how they allocate the revenues. So this contract is for community mental health services, which includes addiction services. So it's basically addictions plus mental health. And this $11,958,000 reflects funding for non-Medicaid. For the non-Medicaid population in our community. So we just got done kind of talking about our CCO relationship with Pacific Source. We have a provider agreement with them to serve the Medicaid population in our community. And over the years, we've seen more and more state funding shift from this IGA to the CCO contracts because a larger percentage of the population tends to be Medicaid eligible. So that's kind of where the money shifts. And it also leverages dollars because you can get a Medicaid match. So there's strategic reasons why the state would do it that way. But for us, this serves a population that does not have Medicaid. So they could either have private insurance where maybe there's no mental health or addiction benefit, or it's underfunded, so there'd be a big gap between what their insurance would pay and what they would pay, or people that are indigent without resources and in need of services. So this agreement primarily funds our adult mental health services, our addiction treatment services, our community crisis services such as mobile crisis and our jail diversion teams. It also has funding in here for Her Place, so we spoke about Her Place just a moment ago. The funding that comes for like taking care of dependent care for people that are enrolled in Her Place actually is a program element in this contract. And it has a lot of specialty services that has sat with the county to provide, such as supported employment, ACT, and ESA, which is early assessment for children with psychosis. So it funds a lot of really critical community services for us, and it funds a population that really doesn't have resources and turns to the county as somewhat of the safety net. So this really helps fill that budgetary gap that Medicaid does not cover and some of the private insurance carriers don't cover. So I don't know if there's any specific questions that people may have about this contract.
No, we spent a lot of time looking at it over the last couple weeks, and I feel good about it. So.
Oh, good.
Great.
I'm like a little, I'm thrilled that you're spending time together, but a bit short.
Not me and, no, not me and Ryan, sorry. Jessica and I were really,
Sorry, not to make fun. You
I
did a
mean,
good job.
I would love to spend time with Ryan.
Anytime.
All right, any questions, Commissioner Cameron? Yes.
He's got it.
He's the contract lawyer. Perfect. Well, thank you, Ryan.
Well, thank you.
So I'll take a motion, Commissioner Willis.
Okay, Madam Chair, I move that we approve the incoming funds intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Health Authority in the amount of $11,958,286.98 for the financing of community mental health services retroactive to January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2022.
I'll second the motion.
Great, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, the motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. All right, now we're going to move on to Human Resources to consider approval of an ordinance amending Marion County Code 2.25 and adopting a temporary addendum to Marion County personnel rules by emergency procedure, allowing department heads to authorize telecommuting for employees whose work may be performed remotely during the state of Oregon declared emergency related to the novel coronavirus COVID-19. And Salvador is joining us. Good morning. It's so great to see you.
Good morning. Good to see you too.
So before I have you jump into that, do I let him talk and then I give the title announcement?
Yes.
Okay, this is a new procedure for me, so I apologize if I'm clunky. So, just introduce yourself for the record.
For the record, my name is Salvador Llerenas, and I'm the Labor and Employment Relations Manager with Marion County's Human Resources Department.
Thank you. So if you want to give us your presentation?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So today I'm bringing the board approval, a ordinance which temporarily amends our personnel rules to give county employees the option of performing some work remotely with their supervisor's approval. As you know, recently we reached an agreement with one of the labor organizations that provides temporary telecommuting to their unit's members. Adoption of this ordinance would allow the same opportunity to all eligible county employees. The temporary policy mirrors the agreement which the board previously approved. We have worked with legal counsel to help draft the ordinance, and we're asking to be adopted by emergency procedure so that it takes effect today. Do
Okay.
you have any questions? Thank you.
Any questions?
I
Okay,
do
no
not.
questions.
Madam
Great.
Chair, I will move that the chair, due to the emergency procedure, that the chair read the ordinance by title only twice.
And I'd
Okay.
second the motion.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, the motion passes. So reading the motion twice, in the matter of amending Marion County Code 2.25 and adopting an addendum to Marion County personnel rules by emergency procedure. In the matter of amending Marion County Code 2.25 and adopting an addendum to Marion County personnel rules by emergency procedure. Jane's looking
All
at
right, so,
Is that
Madam
it?
Chair, I will move that we approve an ordinance amending the Marion County Code 2.25, and adopting a temporary amendment addendum to Marion County personnel rules by emergency procedure, allowing department heads to authorize telecommunicating for employees whose work may be performed remotely during the state of Oregon declared emergency related to novel COVID-19.
There you go.
I second the motion.
A motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I think I can say aye.
Aye. That's
Aye.
okay. I got it all messed up too. The motion passes. Thank you, Salvador.
Thank you.
It's great
Thank
to
you,
see
Salvador.
you.
Good to see
Tell
you.
Kim hi.
I will.
All right, we're going to move on to a Public Works item, and Brandon's going to join us again this morning to consider approval of a resolution to initiate amendments updating Marion County Code Chapters 16 and 17, and direct the Marion County Planning Commission to hold a public hearing on the matter to make a recommendation to the board. Good morning, again.
Hi. Hello, good morning, Commissioners. Again, for the record, Brandon Reich, Marion County Planning Director. Marion County generally keeps,
Would you mind?
Yeah.
Thank you, just for clarity.
big difference.
Thank you.
Marion County generally keeps our code up to date with state law changes. That way, when customers come to the counter, they can get a copy of their code, and everything they can do is contained within it, instead of part of it in our code and part of it recent changes in state law. And some things are optional for the county to adopt, so we have to consider whether we're going to adopt those, and if we do, how we are, whether we're going to change the criteria or make them specific to our county. So there have been changes in the 2019 and 2021 legislatures to statute, and then Department of Land, Conservation and Development made some amendments to rules in relation to those that should be incorporated into the county code to keep it up to date. In addition, staff is proposing clarifying amendments consistent with state law and, as always, correcting some Scrivener's errors. During the process, we always find those. We try so hard, and we always seem to find them. I think it's part of the planner brain. During the process, the public and neighborhoods and interested persons, neighborhood organizations are all invited to provide ideas for amendments to the urban and rural zone code. These ideas are considered during the process and can be incorporated into the recommendation that would come from the Planning Commission. If the board agrees to initiate the amendments, staff would like to take the updates to the Planning Commission first for one or more work session type meetings and a hearing, at least one hearing, to work with them to develop recommended code language for the board to consider. And then usually in the past, what we've done is we've had a work session with the board, with the Planning Commission chair, or whoever from the Planning Commission would like to talk, and just go through those amendments and think about them, and we can make additional changes then too, before the board would consider adopting them. So before the board today is a resolution that initiates the process for the board to consider amendments to the code and directs the Planning Commission to hold a hearing on the matter. Staff recommends the resolution be approved as provided. With that, I'm available for any questions you may have.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Willis?
So Brandon, I would ask that you maybe have a couple of work sessions with the board as we're going through this process, because I have some concerns about some of the staff recommendations, and sort of like as it's written now, I probably would vote no if this was in front of us. So I just want to make sure that it's not just the Planning Commission that's involved in sort of deciding what the county should or shouldn't be adopting, but that the board's also included in that process over the next several months so that we can be educated about what the options are and what's best for the community.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Do you support going to the Planning Commission, having those initial discussions?
Yeah.
And
Yes,
out of
that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm planning on voting yes to open the conversation, but I'm very, I care a lot about this. So I want to make sure that this is
Absolutely.
not just given to us as a rubber stamp at the end of the process, because if that's the case, I won't be supportive.
In the past, the board's always been heavily involved in modifying and contributing ideas to go into it, and then changing or modifying, removing, and drafting the language. This may take 6 to 8 months. It could take 9 or 10. There's a lot here. This is double-sided. It's a chunk of work, and ideally we would have done it after the 2019. Every couple of years it's easier, but when you have gone this far, we have a lot of stuff that's been changed. So, and then we try to make it clear what's mandatory, because it came out of statute, and what's optional, and then what types of options the county has then. And then there's sometimes you, as the board, have desires for things you want to see, and then we need to think about it a little bit more on, can we expand the options or get the language right in code? So it takes time.
Yep.
Commissioner Cameron?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And just to clarify, Brandon, the Planning Commission makes recommendations to us, so, and is there any reason why a commissioner can't communicate with one of the planning commissioner meetings? And I'm looking at legal counsel with one of the planning commissioners?
So you mean ex parte kind of on
Well,
the
no,
side?
with the commission, with the planning commission, yes. If a commissioner has a discussion with a planning commissioner, is that considered ex parte? Because they're not making it, you're not
They're
making,
making recommendations,
they're
so
making-
I would say probably not.
Probably not what?
More into that.
probably not what?
Probably don't do that.
I would say, you know, just sitting here, I would say it's probably better to follow the process and have the board receive the information as a unit, but I'm happy to look into this further.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that that's clarified
Yeah.
for this board.
Yeah.
Because I know in the past, the planning commission has, I think, contacted board members and, you know,
Individually.
yeah.
Yeah.
In the past, is that what you
Individ-
said?
Individual planning commissioners have contacted a board member,
Oh.
and in that particular case, I basically said, hey, we shouldn't be talking because you're going through this process, and I want to hear your recommendations. But I just want to clarify if there's any, that was a personal choice, but I want to make sure that there's a,
I'd like clarification.
Yeah,
of
I don't
that.
think so, Jane, because it's a legislative process. This
So we'd
isn't
like to-
quasi judicial.
I'd like to look into it.
Yeah,
And I will
would-
definitely report back.
would you please?
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to make sure, because they're going to make recommendations to us. They're not going to, we don't have to take
That's
their
right.
recommendations,
Yeah.
so.
Right.
Yeah, and the
But
board in the
But I
past,
am interested in, I'm really excited about our planning commission taking this on, because it is a huge project that it'll be interesting to have a diverse group of people from Marion County take a look at what they think and bring their recommendations to us.
they have a really good understanding of what some of these impacts could be in the rural area, especially as we could adopt code. And they've got really good, usually, they're very engaged in each item and have good recommendations to the board. And there's no reason the planning commission and the board couldn't have a joint meeting. Whoever from the planning commission wanted to attend, say during like a work session during regular business hours, they could attend and we could, and then staff will have the work to take board direction, create options or change the code, remove amendments. So, and we've been through this before and we're very open to whatever you support, because we want to get the right solutions for our area that work for the county in those areas where we don't have to just adopt only what the state has created.
I definitely want Jane for you to look into that, because I think it is actually okay for the board to have conversations, because in Kaiser, a city councilor is a liaison to the planning commission and participates in that process. So, I mean, obviously every community has different standards, and I would like to know what our standards are. I don't want to circumvent the planning commission's procedures or processes or even really get in the way. But I would like to know if their meetings are televised and if the public is noticed and invited to attend through this process for the planning commission, so they can be influenced by the community with public input before it even gets to us.
Sure, yeah, we do include the public. There are interested people who've already signed up to be notified of this, and they'll find out, and then we send out notice to them so that they're aware of it. We haven't televised them, but we could set that up to get it recorded so it's available on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, I would
as
like
part of
that.
that.
I think it's important that now that we're in this age of technology, people are accustomed to virtually participating in some fashion. And so I have two requests. One, I'd like it to be recorded and posted. And two, I would like a planning commission meeting to be a hybrid option, so people in the community can engage actively in a meeting at public comment for the planning commission. For those that have all the concerns we've experienced over the last 2 years.
Absolutely, we can do that.
Anything else? Okay. Well, thank you, Brandon. I look forward to this process. I've obviously never done it, and I think it's, there's a lot on the table.
There
So-
is. It looks like a lot, so much of it's from the state, but the parts that we get to have the choices over, we can really dive into. And it does seem like a lot. We've only been through it a handful of times. We only get to it every 4 to 5 years, so.
Yeah, well, this is It's going to be a learning curve for me, but I look
Okay.
forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I will take a motion from Commissioner Willis, please.
Okay, Madam Chair, I move that we approve a resolution to initiate amendments updating the Marion County Code, Chapter 16 and 17, and direct the Marion County Planning Commission to hold a public hearing on the matter and make a recommendation to the board.
I'll second that motion.
Great, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, the motion passes.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you, Brandon. Have a great day.
Thank you.
And now we're gonna move on to a public hearing. What do I have to do here? Do I have to gavel into it, or just say I'm moving into a public hearing?
Moving into public.
Great, I'm moving into a public hearing. For the Board of Commissioners, public hearing to consider a proposed substantial amendment to the 2021-2022 Annual Action Plan. And joining us is Chris Epley and Tim Gleason. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So for the record, Tim Glisson, CDBG Home Program Manager under the Board of Commissioners.
And Chris Epley, Community Development Division Director, same.
Okay, same. This is our housing team.
So on August the 11th, 2021, the fiscal year 2021-2022 Annual Action Plan was submitted to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, indicating how funds would be allocated during the fiscal year 2021-2022 cycle. On December 1st, 2021, Marion County received approval of the Annual Action Plan in conjunction with the Consolidated Plan. The county was granted an extension to the first Annual Action Plan due to the natural disasters the county faced during the county qualification period and during the creation of the Consolidated Plan. As such, every Annual Action Plan is required to be submitted to HUD by May 15th of each year, indicating how the participating jurisdiction plans to allocate funding resources in the upcoming funding cycle, which runs from July 1st of each year to June 30th of the following year. Every year, the Annual Action Plan must be publicly noticed with a 30-day comment period and a public hearing. Per the Citizen Participation Plan adopted by the Marion County Board of Commissioners on August 11th, 2021, if any of the following 6 items occurs, a substantial amendment is triggered and requires notification of a 30-day comment period and a public hearing. Those 6 items are as follows. An activity described in the Annual Action Plan is canceled. A new activity not described in the Annual Action Plan is planned. The location of an activity described in the Annual Action Plan is changed so that it is located in a different service area than the original described location. The beneficiaries of an activity described in the Annual Action Plan are changed so that the predominant group of beneficiaries is different from those which were described in the plan. The purpose or scope of work of an activity described in the Annual Action Plan are changed in essential, important, or significant ways from those described as determined by the Board of Commissioners. Or number 6, the purpose or scope of the activity described in the Annual Action Plan is changed such that the budget of the project is increased by at least $25,000 or more and 25% of the original activity budget. So for the record, there was no written comments that were received in regards to the substantial amendment, the proposed substantial amendment number 1, during the 30-day comment period, which ran from January 8th, 2022 to February 8th, 2022. And then I will go over some of those proposed changes. And then I would also just note that this is just a public hearing, so we're just gathering any information, additional comments from the public. So no actual decision is to be made today. And then that'll be coming forth in the next coming weeks. So the substantial amendment itself is to propose the eliminating these particular projects, which was community infrastructure improvements for $414,773, Boys and Girls Club Northeast Lancaster Clubhouse, $250,000, food bank support Aware, $50,000, family building blocks, $100,000, and affordable housing development, $465,843. The proposed project's reduction in funding would be Chodo's set aside, which was $18,170, and the food bank support, which is $50,000. The proposed new activities would be home buyer activity down payment assistance for $484,000, $814,713, and then owner rehabilitation, $814,778. So this would mean that the final proposed CDBG budget would be food bank support, which would still be going to neighbors serving unsheltered neighbors at $50,000, Center for Hope and Safety for Hope Plaza for $250,000, owner rehabilitation for $946,956. The administration would be $312,238 for a total of $1,561,194, which is the CDBG allocation amount. And then the final proposed 2021-2022 home budget would include the Chodo set-aside of $75,000, down payment assistance for $483,013, and then the administration $62,112 for a total of $621,125. And with that, that is what is being proposed. So if there's any additional comments here, we would take them, and then we will go to a further work session before we fully adopt it.
Okay, so I just want to note for the record that we don't actually have anybody signed up for public comment on this public hearing, and that we just received the staff report, so there's currently no testimony in support or opposition that we are aware of. No general comments. And I do actually have a couple questions, because you ran through that pretty fast. If we can just go back to the proposed project's reduction in funding, and if you can elaborate on what that means. Because initially we had talked about, putting dollars in certain places, and I guess I am confused on the food bank piece.
So the food bank support was actually listed as the Aware Food Bank and neighbors serving unsheltered neighbors. It was combined as $100,000.
Okay.
So the Aware Food Bank, $50,000 would be eliminated. The neighbors serving unsheltered neighbors would stay. So it's a reduction of that food bank.
Okay, and so, I just want to point that out, but I also just want to say that the Board of Commissioners, in their recent ARPA allocation, allocated $500,000 to the Aware Food Bank. I know that I don't want the community to think that because we've pulled this $50,000 back, we're not actually making an investment, and instead, we actually made a different allocation of dollars of additional $450,000 to go into that. And I know it's like apples and oranges because of this particular public hearing, but it's really critically important to me that we explain that we're doing that, and it's super great work.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Tim. Did you have any questions, Commissioner Cameron?
No?
Commissioner Willis?
Nope.
Great. Tim, this is a very involved process, and although you raced through that, I'd like to think that I understood about 95% of it, but thank God you're on our floor in case I don't. So with that, I can just come talk to you. I will close the public hearing, and that's it. So thank you.
Thank
Nice
you.
to see you. And we'll move into the reading of the calendar, and I'd be happy to do that today.
That's great.
Happy to, it's not that long. So today is February 9th, Wednesday, 9 a.m. We're at board session. And then next today, I'm excited to report that we're going to be in person at 11:30 for the City of Salem State of the Emergency with Mayor Chuck Bennett. Sadly, this is his last state of the city, and that's located at the Salem Convention Center, 200 Commercial Street Southeast. And then today at 1:15, we have a BOC CAO meeting, executive session if needed, pursuant to ORS 192.660 2ABDEFHI, in the Commissioner's Boardroom, 5th floor, 555 Court Street. And then tomorrow, the 10th, Thursday at 7:30, we have a city's Marion County meeting located at Home Place at 1080 North 1st Street in Silverton. And then at 10 a.m. tomorrow, we have a work session regarding Marion County discussion on Mill City sewer needs in the Commissioner's Boardroom, 5th floor, 555 Court Street. And then at 3 p.m. tomorrow, we have a Mid-Willamette Valley Homeless Alliance Board of Directors meeting, which is virtual. And on Saturday, the 12th at 1 p.m., we will be attending the firefighter Austin Smith Memorial at the St. Paul Rodeo Grounds, 4174 Mallow Avenue, Northeast St. Paul. And on Wednesday, the 16th at 9 a.m., we're back here for board session in the Senator Hearing Room, 1st floor, 555 Court Street Northeast. Wednesday, the 16th at 10 a.m., we have the GAP Program Service Awards, location at the GAP Program Boys Building, 3050 Center Street Northeast, Salem. And on Wednesday, the 16th at 12:30, we have the Mid-Valley Jobs Council meeting, which is virtual. And then finally on Wednesday at 1:15, on the 16th, We have a BOC CAO meeting scheduled, executive session if needed pursuant to ORS 192-660-2 A, B, D, E, F, H, I, the Commissioners Boardroom, 5th floor, 555 Court Street. And with that, you want to add anything for the day?
No, I'm excited for the mayor's State of the City. His
Right.
last
I
one,
just saw him this morning. He was at the
economic forum.
economic forum, and he invited everybody to come back and not even leave our seats.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'm sad I missed that forum. I had another meeting this morning. I went last year and learned a lot.
Yeah, I had to leave before they got to apartments and retail, but I got the office space, the industrial, and the agricultural
I wonder if we
presentation.
could ask Kurt to come in and give
They
us
videoed it.
I'm sorry?
It was on tape.
It was
They were,
videoed?
I think, either Allied or somebody was videoing it, so it'll be on tape. You could watch it, I'm
Great.
sure, somewhere.
Okay, perfect.
All right.
Okay, well with
Onward and
that,
upward.
all right, rest of the day. Meeting adjourned.
All right.